Welcome back to another episode. Today I'll be showing you guys through the lens footage of the HP Reverb G2 and the Pimax 8KX and comparing them to each other. A couple things to keep in mind. First off, I recorded this footage on my 24 megapixel camera. The photos are 6000 times 4000 pixels. The recordings though are 1080p, so the pictures are much higher resolution and will give you a better indication of which headset looks better or not. One thing I would like to clear up is people have been talking about a bug in which 100% super sampling on the Reverb G2 is not native resolution, and they claim that you need to go down to 50%. Well, let me explain how this works. So the panels are 2160 by 2160. But SteamVR has to increase the resolution by 40%, so about 1.4 times, in order to account for lens distortion that happens in the lenses. So it needs to render extra resolution in order to get down to that native resolution of 2160 by 2160. Now, the one issue that is debated is whether the 100% super sampling resolution is too high or not. Well, apparently Valve is working on fixing this, so they might reduce the overall resolution for 100%. So the actual super sampling that you need to get to native resolution might be 70%, it might be 80%, it might be 90 or 100. But it is definitely not 50%. If you go down too low, you will start to see some artifacts or aliasing going on. So this is why I'm going to be doing two tests. One is with 100% super sampling and the other is with 70%. So I will show you guys both of those and compare it to Pimax 8KX at 100% super sampling. Now, one of the challenges of recording through the lens videos is that you can't get 100% the same position in one headset as you do in the other. So I tried my best to show you guys in the closest position I could to match equally between the two headsets. Now keep in mind that if you see any distortions or reflections off of the lenses, that is just how the camera is positioned, the brightness of the room, multiple factors can affect this, but the picture quality that I see is usually much better than what you see in the pictures, and especially in the videos which were recorded in 1080p. The Pimax 8KX was tested with the new brightness firmware and in large FOV mode. Here is the resolution of the Reverb G2 at 100%, and here's the resolution at 70%. And here's the resolution of the Pimax 8KX at 100%, and the resolution of it if I had reduced it to 70%. So without further ado, let's jump in. So that was the through the lens footage and some interesting observations. The G2 is about 15% sharper, and you can see in the suitcase comparison that there is more pixel fill on the G2. So it appears that there would be less screen door on the G2. Now the screen door is not noticeable in either headset, but in the G2 you can't even notice it on white or very bright colors either. Another observation is that the 8KX is much brighter with the new firmware, but the G2 is still about 20% brighter overall. And on the 8KX I can increase the brightness to full 100%, but that would make white color way too crushing. It would make it so that text is much harder to read, which is why I have it set to 87. But there's probably some settings on the 8KX you can experiment with that I will try out to see if I can get much brighter backlight while still having very easy text readability. One downside to the Pimax 8KX brightness firmware is that it is having some ghosting or motion blur when turning the head around, more so than before the brightness firmware, so hopefully Pimax fixes this in a new update. Another major difference, as you saw, is that the Pimax 8KX seems to have a green tint over the picture quality, so what looks like a brown suitcase in the G2 looks like a green suitcase in the 8KX. Now luckily, you can adjust different color channels like red, green, and blue in PyTool, so you can adjust the green in order to fix this color issue. And you can load up Chapter 5 and Half-Life Alyx in order to be able to get the picture quality to look the same as on the G2. Another important observation is that the G2 has about a 20% bigger sweet spot than the 8KX. As you can see on this poster, the word dead is a little bit blurry on the 8KX because it's outside the sweet spot of the lens. Now, the lens of the G2 is about the same size as the lens of my big camera, while the 8KX lenses is about 2.5 times the size of my camera lens. And so I try to point my camera lens into the middle of the sweet spot, which is very close to the inner part of the 8KX lenses. Now, while I was doing through the lens footage of the G2, I was amazed by the brightness and the sharpness of the displays that I found myself jumping into a match of Pavlov and having lots of fun. And then when I went back to the 8KX, I look at the picture quality and I'm just like, okay. And I guess that's because I've been used to the Pimax 8KX for the past 2 months. But when I first got the 8KX, I was certainly wowed by all the level of detail I could see. There are still lots of details that you can see in both the G2 and the 8KX, but I think the issue with the 8KX right now is the ghosting or motion blur is a little bit off-putting and might break my immersion a bit. So I like that the G2 has a bit bigger sweet spot and not as much motion blur. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I buy all of my own equipment and my own products. I don't receive anything for free like some of the big name YouTubers do. So if you would like to help support this channel, please go to patreon.com/nextgenvr, and for $3 a month you can get exclusive behind the scenes footage and prioritized fan requests for future video content. And for $6 a month you would get all these benefits and early access to some of my videos. And for $12 a month I will also add your name to a thank you page at the end of my videos and in video descriptions, along with a website or social media handle that you'd like to promote. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys next time.